Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bahrain. Welcome to the 2025 Formula SimRacing World Championship season. It's been a few months, we've been away for a while, but it's time to go racing in 2025 with the very venue that has started us off in the last 3 seasons in a row. He won't tonight, though, of course. He won't be returning this season. We've got a new era ahead of us in 2025 with pretty much across the board a new set of drivers and the chance of a new race winner in the World Championship here this evening. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Hunter with me, and David O'Reilly with us as well here this afternoon in the commentary box. And thanks to everyone behind the scenes as well for getting us sorted, getting us in for the end of qualifying. Good to be alongside you, Ed, and congratulations on everything so far behind the scenes at FSR, getting us underway in 2025. Very pleased to be here, very excited for the 2025 season.
Yeah, well, I mean, as always, there's a brilliant team of people behind me that have been incredibly helpful and given up a lot of their free time. But not least David and, of course, Thomas behind the scenes, and also Peter Schooneman in the broadcast at the moment as well. Qualifying just coming to an end now, and Ruben Machete, who joined up, sort of said I might not do qualifying because I haven't got the livery quite ready for my car yet. And I was like, no, go on, take part. And he said, oh, I've not done any practice either. And he's only gone and put it on pole by 42 thousandths of a second from his teammate, Jeffrey Fournier. So Optiminal, who are very, very strong in pro, have carried that form forward into World Championship as well. One thing to also keep in mind, we have got a small award for the best rookie in terms of this season. That's a driver that's done, I think, less than 8 World Championship starts, and I believe I think Reuven is definitely eligible. Jeffrey, a returning driver from previous championships, and of course Zolt Zux has got a World Championship experience under his belt as well. But anyway, Ewan, take us through what the grid order is going to be.
Absolutely, it is going to be a pole position, as you say, for Reuven Machete. A great lap time from him to get it on pole by 42 thousandths of a second. Jeffrey Fournier is going to be alongside on that front row, and Optiminal will round out the top 3 with a Zolt Zux 3rd place as well. Oxter and then Sander Callas round out the top 5. Patrick Hanko in that 6th position. Tom Oldermenger is returning and in 7th place. Christian Pasquale sharing row 4 with him. George Salagianis and Mikel Leroux round out the top 10. Just over half a second back, so a 6 tenths back actually for Giuseppe Saracino. It is Mirko Mancini in 12th place ahead of Jesse Laitinen. Then Cam Roger, former FSR president, starting in 14th here tonight. Peter Knapp and Lucas Viscott will round out the field on row 8 at the back end of the pack. But a traditionally close FSR qualifying session, that is for sure, as we always see in this series. So close in qualifying once again. But I would say, Ed, that Optiminal, you mentioned their pro performance, but actually in previous seasons at the World Championship, and indeed in any of our series, actually, Optiminal of the teams who are here this season probably got the best track record of those in FSR if you compare each team side by side.
Yeah, and they were also one of the very, very earliest teams to commit to doing the World Championship, which of course we always appreciate, and they have stacked the deck with talent at their disposal. And certainly we like seeing a full group, but also the likes of Go Team and Grand Effect bringing their very best to the party as well. But we get to see them in action in the race. Don't forget Vega Valley eSports as well, Oldermenger and Mancini. A lot of these drivers you will recognise from pro last season, getting the opportunity to step up to the plate. Now, we've also got our third commentator, David O'Reilly. David, great to have you with us in the commentary box.
Yes,
if there's anything you want to introduce just before we get going, I think we've got some time for a couple of small ads.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and to be involved in the 25th annual season of Formula Sim Racing, the longest uninterrupted sim racing championship in the world, and with some of the best drivers on the planet, certainly in open wheelers. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I guess I could segue into anybody who's watching this stream live or watching it later on. If you want to understand how the top drivers in the world go about setting their cars up, there's a guide available to purchase, reportedly written by credible sources, called the Sim Racers Performance Guide, and that is one of the one of the sponsors contributing to this season of Formula Sim Racing. But like all of you, I'm looking forward to the action that tonight's going to bring.
Absolutely, we're just about half a minute away from the end of warm-up, so we'll just squeeze in another thank you to another sponsor we've got this season. Of course, Grid Finder, where we host our races and the ultimate platform for sim racing communities, drivers and designers. Community managers can host championships, manage attendance and sync everything with Discord, all for free. Drivers can browse across over 50 games and show up with custom liveries from the built-in marketplace. Designers can upload and sell liveries or enter competitions to win prizes, and it's all on gridfinder.com, so make sure you can get started today with that, and a big thank you to them for their help with this series. And now though, we're just towards the end of warm-up and getting ready for the first race of the FSR season. This is going to be a great start. As I mentioned before, the last 2 years in a row we have started here at Bahrain. Jake Dennehan taking victory on both of those occasions, Ed. 2023, 0.8 of a second the winning margin. Last year, just 2 seconds. This is going to be a close race, no matter which way we cut it.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got 15 or 16 of the very best that we have to offer, looking to do battle. What's going to be interesting is what tyres they all picked to start on. We saw the medium was the tyre of choice very much for the first stint in Pro, with the softs sort of fading away a little bit too quickly to be useful for more than maybe a dozen laps or so. And then the hard, very few of our drivers, only a couple at the back, gambled on the hard. So I wonder if you were, say, the likes of Lucas Viscott making your debut in the World Championship a little bit further down, whether you might gamble on the hard tyre in that MV Conquest entry, looking to try and at least run long and become a factor once the leaders inevitably pit off the mediums. But of course it should be inferior, I believe, if I remember the rules correctly, free tyre choice for the entire field. So yeah, there could be a couple of gambles here and there. I know Ground Effect infamously love to take a couple of gambles with their drivers. Often sort of, I remember last year in the Academy race, they randomly put driver on the softs for the Academy Championship, and just to see if that would work for them. Had a really, really good start at the first stint, of course, and then quite quickly faded away, sadly, as the softs dropped off after about the first 10 laps or so. But yeah, I think Reuven, Machete and Fournier from pole. Be interesting if Optimal decide to work together at the start, or if they decide it's every man for himself.
Yeah, well, that's the team I was expecting, and maybe a bit more from actually in qualifying. The Ground Effect Sim Racing team. Over the course of the season, they should have Sander Callis, George Zalgias and Matt Tucson, although Tucson is absent from here today.
Rogers filling in for Tucson.
Cam Rogers filling in instead. So he will have to wait for his debut a little bit longer. But yeah, Cam Rogers filling in. And Sander Callis has been on pole in the past. As many as 7 years ago, he took his first pole position. Feels like a very long time ago now. But he's going to be one to watch this season. I'm surprised he didn't break into that top 3 actually in qualifying.
Yeah, it definitely Sander sort of on a bit of a slow build, although he was one of the few drivers that got a lap in the warm-up, obviously, so naturally, fastest of anybody, 1:32.9. But yeah, we saw in Pro, the lap times you're really going to need are sort of those low 32s, 31s as the tyres start to drop away, especially on the medium and hard compounds. On the softs, you should be well into the 130s, 128s, 129s, depending on your pace level, of course. And yeah, we might see a little bit of adjustment as the season goes on. Drivers a bit lower down the order, maybe asking to be put into Pro, and drivers higher up on the order in Pro being gently nudged in the direction of, why don't you go to the World Championship?
Performance Guide, your guide to race setup, strategy, driver performance. Dive in deep, learn about suspension, aero, braking, drivetrain, with a 77-page manual. Learn how to fully engineer your setup and get more from your sim. Written and tested by real-world racing drivers, proven in Formula Sim Racing and VEC. Understand and optimize it all with the Sim Racer's Performance Guide. Quote FSR for a 20% discount off the normal €10 price.
Oh, we look like we're just about to get into the grid and indeed onto the start of the season here in the Bahrain International Circuit. Indeed, tyre choices are beginning to happen further down the field now, and people going for different options. Viscott already on the hard tyres, as you suspected. Some might, Ed, medium tyres for the most part, though. We'll actually see maybe hold fire a little bit on talking about compounds in terms of what they've actually gone for in a few moments' time, because it can switch around when they set off on their formation lap. The 16 drivers just about having to make their way out onto the circuit now and ready for the formation lap on this race. As I mentioned, this is the third year in a row that the Bahrain International Circuit has started a Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Next time out, by the way, we'll be at Sepang for the second round of the championship. That's coming up in 3 weeks' time, followed by the community vote race another few weeks after that one. Then into the late summer, the Red Bull Ring and Silverstone to bring us to halfway. 2 weeks after that will be the Spa race, followed by Singapore, Circuit of the Americas, Suzuka and Mexico to round out the season. Running all the way to December 14th this time round in the World Championship, because we have started a little bit later than usual. It's a good calendar, Ed, because I think we're visiting some circuits that haven't been visited for quite some time in the World Championship, which I think is a fantastic thing to go and visit, even though we've got the constant of Bahrain being the opener. It's the other circuits that are joining in a little bit later on, which I'm very excited about towards the end of the season.
Yeah, well, you always like a little variety is the spice of life, but also you do want circuits that as a sort of baseline that the drivers know fairly well, but they're still somewhat challenging. And Bahrain is, I think, it's got a pretty good mix of challenges. With the long straight with the DRS potentially can be a good overtaking zone into turns 1, turn 4 can be a good overtaking zone as well. And you've also got these tighter corners in the middle sector, like at 8 and at 9, 10 hairpin, which we saw so many drivers struggle a little bit with in the pro race especially. But yes, and speaking of previous races we had here, of course, in the Pro Championship last year that these drivers competed in, it was Zolt Zux, who's third on the grid, that won on that occasion. So he'll be very, very keen to repeat that feat, because, of course, it was the only pro race that Zux won all season as well. It was that opener. So he'll be keen to make an impression. But, of course, Geoffrey Fournier, who we know is very, very successful recently, got back on the podium for the first time in a few years in a Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Super League as well. And then Ruben Machete, who's leading the GPV Super Lights Championship as well. So Optimal, as I said, they've stacked the deck with some big, big talents that all are expected to go very, very strongly here. But someone like Mark Schluter or Sander Callas could try a slightly different strategy to get through.
Absolutely. Formation lap just about drawing to a close. Good afternoon to everybody watching along at home. The opening round of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 2025 here from the Bahrain International Circuit. Formation lap about to draw to a close and the season about to get underway. Myself, Ewan O'Leary, Ed Hunter and David O'Reilly taking you through the action here for 57 laps of racing under the lights. So we end a long wait for the 2025 season. But all the way back on the 4th of August last year that Owen McGorgy was crowned as a champion in his debut season of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship by just 21 points. Not back to defend his crown this time around. A new grid of pretenders hoping to become a Formula Sim Racing World Champion for the very first time. Somebody tonight is going to become a World Championship race winner for the very first time as well. But who is it going to be? Timino in a great early position after qualifying, that's for sure, locking out the front 3 positions. But what is the order going to be at the end of this race? The Bahrain Grand Prix, first round of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 2025 is set to get underway, and Ruben Machete gets off to a good launch here, off the front row, comes off his teammate Geoffrey Fournier immediately here, and on the inside, Slunter trying to come through the middle. Where's he going to go? 3 wide for second place, in fact, down in towards turn 1 for the very first time. He's boxed in, Fournier goes around the outside and goes through into second position by the looks of things here, and then in the background, Zolt Zux is going backwards. Sander Callas has made a good start, he's into the top 5, maybe even 4th place, down the inside, and he is through. It's Zux going backwards to 5th, Oldermenger just in behind him, but it's Callas and Sluter have slipped through. Ruben Machete, though, Ed, has converted that pole position into an early race lead.
Indeed he has. So really, really strong getaway from our top 2 at Optimal, but it was Zux that lost out badly. His former teammate at Grand Effect, the team he'd left at the end of last season, Sander Callas, has jumped him into 4th position, and Schluter, of course, braved it out through the middle of Fournier and Zux to get up to 3rd there. There was also a bit of commotion as Mancini was fighting away with Roger and Viscott on the run down towards turn 4, but Mirko Mancini just holding on for Vega Valley eSports to 13th. Viscott, though, has only gained, I think, 1 position from the very back of the grid ahead of Peter Knapp on the hard tyre there. So struggles for Knapp, but yeah, up front, still a 1-2 for Optimal, which they do need 2 cars to be scoring as best they can to be leading that team's championship. And at the moment, that's the way it's playing out. But certainly, Mark Schluter, if he can get through past Fournier quickly, then he could be a big threat to them here.
Absolutely, and David, a very good start.
Oh, he's trying it.
But look at this, down the inside. Mark Schluter's going to come through on the inside line. And Go Team Racing are mixing it up now. Machete still leads, but Mark Schluter up into 2nd position past Jeffrey Fournier.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Mark Schluter there to set him up. We'll have to see how much push to pass he's used, because of course they get about 90 seconds or so of push to pass. It will vary depending on the tracks, of course. You might see a track like Monza, they might get a little bit more if Monza was on the calendar, which it isn't, so probably a bad example. But, but yeah, certainly it makes things a little bit more interesting. In terms of the hybrid they were using last season, what we found was that drivers were constantly just pressing the hybrid button every lap to use the power. And for the likes of Jerne Simoncic, you remember at Silverstone, he had the shift button for the gear change right next, the downshift button right next to the power button, and he got mixed up at one point and ended up with him blowing up his own engine. So that's just an illustration of the drivers all pretty much universally complained that they didn't like constantly pressing the hybrid button all the time. So we thought, why not give him push to pass, because it works very, very well in certain other rFactor 2 championships. And so Robin Panzer very, very kindly took the time to put that together, and it's gone down, I have to say, pretty well with the drivers, and it's led to some pretty good racing so far. But yeah, for Mark Schluter, how much of is he's going to want to use in this first stint, because he's going to want to hope Ewan can rely on DRS to get through, but Machete has seen his teammates picked off, and he wants to prevent that from happening, and that's why he's snaking to try and break the turn.
And he's going to be successful this time round in towards turn number 1. He is. So he keeps the lead. Ruben Machete at the head of the field, ahead of Mark Schluter. Then it's Jeffrey Fournier in 3rd. Sander Kallas up to 4th. Zuk down to 5th after qualifying inside the top 3 with his teammates. Tom Ondermenger, 6th place ahead of Michael Leroux. Then it's Patrick Hanko with Giannis and Pasquale rounding out the top 10 in this field. As you mentioned, just because a team has more members than others, it doesn't mean they score more points in the team's championship. It is down to the top 2. And certainly Optimino would be taking a whole bag of points home from Bahrain if things stay as they are, but still very early exchanges here. And you do wonder whether this race is going to settle into a bit of a pattern, whether those on medium tyres are going to save tyres a little bit, run around together, and effectively use the slipstream of Ruben Machete to save their stuff for a little bit later on in the 57 laps to try win this late on. As we have seen in the past in FSR races, it sometimes is about waiting for the last 10 laps or so. Wonder whether that's going to be a theme that continues at the very least at this race.
Yeah, certainly. And if you remember the race last season, it was wasn't it Jan Grankvist who was on a different strategy. Everyone was picking a lot of the 2 and 1 stoppers off near the end, the likes of Bianca Lila, who tried, I think, a different strategy, and it was Denahan who sort of in the middle strategy was able to win that particular encounter, although it was, of course, Owen McGorgy who went on to seal the title, despite having a pretty not that impressive result in the first race, because he was kind of sacrificed, wasn't he? And speaking of which, here comes Mark Schluter around the outside with the DRS, forces Ruben Machete to brake late, and there's a little bit of contact into turn 1. Schluter clearly getting a bit impatient here, wants to take the lead as soon as possible.
He certainly does. Look at this, on the way towards turn number 4, looks to the inside but doesn't go through. On this occasion, it's close though, very close. Fournier queuing up in there as well as Sander Kallas and Zuk as well, of course, in the field. They run downhill now through the S's of turn 6 and 7. And downhill on the brakes at turn 8. There's a look down the inside from Zuk, just late on in the braking zone. And the inside is Sander Kallas, the best place of the ground effect sim racing cars. Still side by side on the way towards the very difficult turn 9 and 10. But it is Kallas who holds on to the place, and he weaves around a little bit there. I'm not sure what he's trying to communicate to Zuk, to be honest with you, but definitely a little bit of a weave there, a bit of a message trying to be sent there to Zuk.
Yeah, and certainly the tempers ever so slightly starting to fray, but Kallas and Zuk ever so familiar with one another. And here we see, here comes Mark Schluter, right tucked in behind. He opens the DRS and he takes the lead on lap 5. And Machete knew didn't have much to respond with. Wants to save his push pass maybe for a bit later on. But for Mark Schluter, remember when a few years ago, 2023, he made his debut here in the World Championship with TX3, lasted all of half a lap before he collided into his teammate Yannick Bock, of course. But what a difference a couple of years makes. Mark Schluter has really come on strong in other championships and taken what he's learned and used it to good effect. Purple first sector as well. He is flying out there. Now he's released. Machete tried to back him into Fournier, but the ploy, it seems, has backfired.
He's never finished in the top 8 in a World Championship race, by the way. Mark Schluter didn't participate in 2024, but did do the whole season in 2023, bar the final race. He's actually finished a race in now a few races. DNF'd his last 2 as well, so this is a great start to the season for him. Reuven Machete, though, has been here a lot more recently than that. Did participate last year in 6 races of the calendar, scoring 12 points in the end. 20th place by the end of the calendar season in 2024 for Reuven Machete. He's looking for his first win, if at all possible, in the World Championship. Myself, Ewan O'Leary, Ed Hunter, and David O'Reilly also with us up here in the commentary booth. Still 52 laps here to go, David, but a good start in terms of the racing out front. Mark Schluter leading just ahead of Reuven Machete, and a pretty exciting exchange between the two out front so far.
Yeah, very exciting out front. Those guys are super quick. And I think we tend to underestimate how tricky this circuit is, because right where they are now, exiting the main straight and onto the back straight, it is so tricky to get the car accelerating while you've got big steering lock on. And there are so many tricky exits here. And this car is very, very torquey with the internal combustion engine and hybrid power. It's got mega torque at fairly low revs, and it's very easy to lose the rear end. So the concentration levels the drivers have to show to keep this car under control, and then they've got to conserve tyres, particularly the entry here to turn 9, turn 10, so easy to lock up the inside front tyre under brakes. Now I'm just noticing here that Lucas Vichot, who's taken his medicine early and started off on the hards, he's not making a bad account of it really. He's less than a second slower than most of the other guys are on the mediums, and he's tending to get quicker. But you've got to take the medicine at some point on either the hard or on the soft. So hopefully that'll pay him dividends in the long run.
Yeah, hopefully it will. He is down in 15th at the moment. Knapp is the only one behind him. Peter Knapp, who is driving for the CMT Go Team Racing side this time around in 2025. Out onto the front straight again for Mark Schluter and Reuven Machete. Onto the front straight here, and DRS open again for Machete down in towards turn number 1. Does he look at retaking that lead? Not quite for the moment. He had a peak there, but couldn't go down the inside quite. Then it's Jeffrey Fournier, then Sander Callas and Zooks here at the top 5, the same as it was at the beginning of this race, or at least at the end of lap 1. The only change has been for the lead as we get onto lap 7. These medium tyres still holding up well, and they will do for a good while just yet.
Yeah, you can sort of sense there's a bit of a train forming here where Machete using the DRS to sort of keep Schluter in sight, and Fournier doing the same, and Sander Callas 8 tenths behind, ever so slightly struggling to keep up with the train in front, and he's starting to form one of his own with Zooks, quite keen to get revenge, I suspect, and Oldermenger for close company. And then there's a little bit of a further gap backwards to Mikhail Leroux, who, of course, those who watch the Virtual Endurance Championship will recognize that name. Leroux drives for Go Team there as well. They are leading that championship with Leroux's car, the number 17, that he shares with team owner Cosmo Prosciutto. So Leroux, it's great to see him trying his hand at Formula Sim Racing. And at the moment, looking good for the top 7 as we see Machete going a little bit wide out of turn 14 and 15 and keeping it on the island at least. But you sense here Machete just biding his time, not going for a do-or-die move just yet on Mark Schluter here. And Schluter has worked very hard to get the lead. Now he's got to keep it until the first window of pit stops starts to open up. And here he comes. Machete really close. Is going to pull to the inside very, very late, Ewan.
It's been chased all the way to the pit wall, but Machete's got the inside line. Here comes Schluter on the outside, though, given the inside for turn 2. Absolutely locked wheel to wheel. Off of turn 3. The two race leaders, the only two who have led this race so far, Reuven Machete and Mark Schluter, doing battle on the next straight, but it's Reuven Machete's position, and it's his lead once again here for Optimal eSports. Machete leads Schluter, and Geoffrey Fournier continuing to enjoy this battle from third place as his teammate retakes the lead on lap 8.
What a fantastic fight, reminiscent of Hamilton and Rosberg at the same circuit.
Yeah, excellent point there, David, because of course that's again a very, very close situation between those two Mercedes teammates, and not quite teammates themselves, of course, although we got 3 Optiminals quite close together, and then the go team of Schluter, of course, who's just lost that lead. But of course, it had to get very, very physical to Reuven Machete to complete that maneuver. And I'm wondering, because Machete was saying before qualifying that he was really worried his lack of practice would come back to haunt him. But at the moment, the tyre's holding up pretty well on that lead Optiminal car. Let's see if he can keep this up, because Schluter may start to contemplate maybe an undercut here as we get to nearly 8, 9, 10 laps completed in the race. And Machete immediately pulls across, and Mark Schluter doesn't follow him. So not trying to even think about a move into first corner on this occasion to counter-attack.
This time, will keep the lead quite nicely. Machete, single file all the way through the top 6, by the way, who have gotten away from the rest of the field. It's Machete, Schluter, Fournier, Callas, Zooks, Oldermenger, who have all gotten out front top 6 quite comfortably, actually, at the rest of the field, although Tom Oldermenger's starting to struggle a little bit to keep up. He's the Vega Valley eSports driver, making his appearance here in the World Championship once again. He has got top 10 finishes in his past. His teammate Mirko Mancini has not, because he's never been in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. He's one of many debutants being on the grid this season, and indeed for this race as well. But as I mentioned earlier, Machete and Schluter are not two of them. Neither is Geoffrey Fournier, who's in third place. I think if you're looking for previous achievements, Ed, you'd look to Geoffrey Fournier, probably, who's got the best of them, but he's currently sat not really making a name for himself in third place. Not too much happening around him at the moment, and is doing fine in third place. Yeah,
I think early days yet for Geoffrey Fournier. We know the Frenchman has a pretty decent fan base of mainly French drivers and supporters cheering him on. So I'm sure Geoffrey will be harnessing that to try and push forward a bit later in the race. But with the limited push to pass, you don't want to use up all your sweeties at the same time, as my co-commentator Ryan Ferris was saying in the pro race. But interesting for Oldermenger, of course, because he's a driver that had a really, really bad start to last season, where he was suffering for most of the year with a concussion that he got pre-2024, and then he sort of only really felt back to his old self near the end of the season. So it's great to see Tom in the World Championship and still up there competing, as we see. Michael Leroux has been overtaken not just by Patrick Hanko, but his other teammate Giuseppe Saracino, the man who we saw take a couple of wins in Academy over the last couple of seasons, and has occasionally driven the odd pro race as well. He's another driver making his debut in World Championship. Good to see him moving forward. But now Leroux has got Zalagianis, who is back in the top 10 for the first time since Spa last year, all over the back of him for company.
And this is awkward between the Go Team Racing teammates here, David. There's 4 of them in these 5 positions from 7th to 11th place, and they've got to somehow coordinate between themselves what order they're going to be in and exchange places if they need to as well. It can get pretty awkward between teammates here.
Yeah, I wonder who gets to make their first request if I'm faster than the car in front. But fascinating stage of the stint here. By my calculation, I think we're probably halfway through their first medium stint. I see them trying to get to 20 laps, and it's quite interesting because the guys that have done a bit more setup work on worn tyres come into their own now. The guys who've done their homework and worked out how to keep the tyre in good condition and be quick on a worn tyre. And sometimes there's a bit of a waxing and waning of people's pace at this stage of the stint as tyre wear kicks in.
Here comes Schluter full with the lead again. Machete can't defend this time round, and with the exit, it's always the guy with the better run out of turn 3 that seems to get the place, but Machete bidding a good fist of this time round. 10 laps gone, another lead change. Mark Schluter back to the front again here, Ed, at the expense of Reuven Machete, and Geoffrey Fournier, who's still sat there watching in third.
Yeah, it looks like Machete saw Schluter coming and tried to sort of hang it out around the outside there. But I think he knew that it was going to be a little bit tricky on that occasion. The DRS quite powerful here, and maybe we don't know exactly from the outside how much push to pass they all have available, which I guess adds a little bit to the jeopardy from a spectator's point of view. But yeah, Fournier, if Machete starts to lose touch with Schluter, I could see Geoffrey starting to get on the blower with the rest of the Optimal squad and saying, Reuven, you should probably be thinking about helping me, because I've got Santa Callas all over the back of me and I'd like some clear air in which to set lap times. Because when they're all in a train together, then they're all relying on the DRS from the car in front, and it's been interesting to see who decides to pit first out of the train to try and get that clear air, because we have got a few gaps starting to emerge lower down. I think Peter Knapp and Luca Viscott are just starting to fall to 21 seconds behind, and that opens up the pit window just behind Cameron Roger, of course. So yeah, the options are opening up for the leaders now, but it's whether they decide to take it now. So we now see Leroux is going to lose another position, this time to Pascal. We did see Zalgianis in the background making the move into turn 1. Leroux attempts to juke it out around the outside, but it's Pascal, the Italian, that takes that 10th position away from the debutant, Michael Leroux.
Another one of those awkward exchanges between teammates. The Go Team Racing squad currently running inside this sort of 7th to 11th kind of part of the order. Optimal are all running together, but you're a lot happier when you're running up front all together here rather than running in the midfield all together. 3 drivers with experience in the World Championship. Reuven Machete is currently in 2nd place, although this would be his best result. He's not been in the top 5 even before, as I mentioned earlier. Geoffrey Fournier, who has been on the podium in the past in the World Championship, currently replicating his best finish in this series at the moment, running in 3rd. And then Zoltzuks, who has been 4th place in the Pro Championship last year, 7th place in an individual race around this championship as well. The World Championship is currently inside the top 5 for what would be the first time. Santa Callas in between them. As you mentioned, he does have more experience in the World Championship perhaps than any other. He's finished 2nd in races in the past. As we get to the end of 1/5 distance, actually, at the end of 12 laps, but as we've been saying, this stint is likely to go on for a little bit longer. I did feel, to be honest, Ed, last lap that Mark Schluter was trying to get away and trying to actually break the DRS and toe on Reuven Machete. He's not been able to do that. Machete is still very much locked in there.
Yeah, exactly. And when you can't break away, they tend to reel you back in with the DRS. We also did see Zux was just thinking about a move on Callas before backing out into turn 1. He was sort of ducked to the inside and then back to the racing line. But yeah, you can tell Callas does not really need that distraction behind him, because you can see he's dropped out of DRS behind Geoffrey Fournier, which is very, very good news for Optimal, because now the two of them can gang up on Mark Schluter. They can even afford to split the strategies if they so desire with Machete and Fournier. They could have Machete pit first and Fournier stay out to keep the pressure on Schluter, or vice versa, as we now cut back to a debutant from Finland, Jase Latinen, for the MV Conquest team, the team entered by Mihailo Vincentievich, one of the longest serving drivers and now team owners in the FSR World Championship. Of course, competed way back in 2006, but his young driver here, Latinen, has a lot of experience from Grand Prix Virtual, where he's won races in Formula Sprint 2 and Formula Sprint 1, but this perhaps the biggest challenge he's taken on yet, and he's shown up pretty well so far, starting to catch Michael Leroux in front of him, and he's keeping Mirko Mancini, who's got a lot of pro experience behind him as well, along with, of course, the former El Presidente, my predecessor, some might say, Cameron Roger.
I've been watching Michael Leroux. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned Latinen catching Michael Leroux. I've been watching him for a couple of laps, and he is starting to have a real balance problem with that car. He's getting a lot of throttle oversteer, so maybe his diff setting isn't quite what he needed. But Jase Latinen's got him now, but he has been struggling a lot exiting from slow corners.
He's going backwards, LaRue, and 12th place might not be the end of it, unfortunately. Latin comes past, gets up into 11th place. One of two debutants from that MV Conquest team, Biscott and Latin, both making their debut tonight in the World Championship. As we said, currently running in 11th and 16th position in the field. Top 15 get points, by the way, in the World Championship this season, which has been the case for the last few years now. We are back again with the top 15 scoring points again here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Callis went really deep into turn 10 there, and you could tell Zux was spinning up the rear tyres, just trying to avoid him almost. But yeah, Sander Callis well and truly losing touch with the podium trio, and now the rear tyres just start to get away from him. Zux, you can feel a little bit of frustration here. He's been stuck behind Callis for the first, really the first part of this race, the first 13 laps or so, last 13 laps anyway, and now he's making mistakes and he can't quite take advantage, and he can see his chances of finishing on the podium slipping away here.
Certainly can. It's a gap that's growing now from third to fourth. Mentioned earlier that it was a top 6 train. Well, right now it's just decreasing in size again and again, partly due to the pace at the front of the field. Machete and Rufus Machete putting on a real big pace, but Callis certainly under pressure. Down in towards turn number 1. Zook's not close enough this time. Oldermenger is sat there as well in 6th position. Coming out of turns 1, 2 and 3 now. They're all okay. Pasquale is back just inside the top 10, and they're all being promoted here. As you mentioned, David, Mikel LaRue was struggling. He's come into pit lane. That seems like a sensible thing to do at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something in his setup that's not suiting. It's either the chassis balance, or sometimes you can use diff to overcome that. But yeah, he could not get the power down without losing the rear end. So hopefully he'll be more comfortable on the next set of tyres. Maybe even take a click off the front wing. But we'll see how he gets on.
16th place, 37 seconds now off the race lead, but everybody will have to stop twice over the course of today's race, you'd expect. At some point over the course of today. The winning strategy last year was actually a 3-stop strategy from Jake Dennehan, but of course the tyre model and the car and everything year to year in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship does change, so comparing strategies from last year and indeed the year before isn't especially helpful. We just look at what we've got in front of us here in 2025. What we've got in front of us is a big lead for Mark Sluter. It's over a second for the first time. It just ticked over a second for the first time there. Machete looks like he's pushing hard here to try and stay in that second margin as the pit stops come in from behind. It's really begun now. Sander Callis leads them onto pit lane. Zooks, that is, he leads onto pit lane. Maybe using that bit of a gap that you were talking about, Ed, between Cam Roger and Peter Knapp there in 13th and 14th place.
Yeah, exactly. So as we see, very, very quick stop from Optiminor to get Zooks out just behind Callis. So they stay exactly as they were, but Zooks is going to get a bit sick of seeing Callis' name on the rear wing, because he's seen more of that than the rest of the drivers put together, really, and the rest of the track too. Out they come, and as I said, that gap in front of Peter Knapp suits both of them perfectly well. And for Callis, he's got his teammate Cameron Roger next up the road, so if he can catch Cameron quickly, he might be able to help his teammate Callis. But of course, it's going to be a 7-second gap or so that they've got to close on those fresh mediums. So that ensures we should be seeing both Callis and Zooks in the pits again. And now the onus is on our top 3. What will they do to respond? It'd be interesting to see what Oldermenger did as well. He didn't follow them into the pits. He decided to stay out and inherit that 4th place.
It looked like he might have been following them in, but in the end he was just grabbing a bit of slipstream for the long straight down towards turn 1 there. On this occasion he stays out on the circuit though, as you say, in 4th place at the moment there. In the lead though, Mark Sluter, 3/4 of a second as they come to the end of lap 16. Does he respond or not? No, he doesn't. Neither do Machete and Fournier. It's going to be super interesting to see what they do now here, David. Do they go and cover off these guys or not? More pit stops here. Hanko and Saracino follow each other in as well.
Well, I think all these guys they're locking themselves into a 3-stop because the soft tyre is so lacking in durability. The dead curve is so steep that you really can't use them for more than 12 laps, maybe 14 at the outside, and we're only 17 laps in, and the hard is so slow that I think these guys are going to go for 3 medium sets and 1 set of softs, I would say. That's my guess.
let's see what they end up going for here, as Zooks and Callis look like they were side by side there briefly. This is two drivers who are on alternate strategies here. The conventional wisdom, Ed says, don't battle and focus on those in front to try and catch them, use the undercut, but they are fighting between themselves right now.
Well, Zooks is sort of inadvertently helping out his teammates, isn't he, by fighting Callis, by keeping the ground effect driver, slowing him down by making those lunges into turn one. It's helping out Machete and Fournier because it stops Callis getting closer and closer to their pit window. Look at the gap, 25.6 seconds to Schluter, and then about 24 and 23 seconds to Machete and Fournier respectively. So he is playing the team game, if anything, Zolt Zooks, but also there's a little bit of frustration boiling in and sort of personal stakes in that battle as well. And do we see Machete come in? Yes, we do. So he's the first of our top three to bail for the pit lane. And do I see Oldenmenka coming in as well? Yep, seems like he's following suit.
Yeah, he is. So Machete, Oldenmenka, both into pit lane. Now locks up on the way up onto the jacks now, and we'll check out their tyres. It looks like from here it's mediums. We will check and see if they don't switch before the exit, because it is possible. Out onto the circuit, Callis and Zooks down towards turn number one. He is inadvertently helping his teammate here, Zooks, but his teammate's going to be right with them here in a second. There he is with Machete just in front of these guys, and Zooks powers through into what is 7th position right now. It's going to be a much more advanced position a little bit later on, but that is a good overtake down in towards turn one. Can Sander Callis respond? Look at that, they weave across the road down towards turn number 4, throwing up the dust and the sand on the off line towards turn 4. It's outside for Sander Callis in towards turn 4, banging wheels again. Oh my word, Zooks and Callis getting into contact through turn 4 and into the middle sector. It's still going on here. Zooks defends the inside line down at turn 8. A cutback line from Sander Callis. He's going to see a big optimal car in the way here, and so it's outside at turn 9 and 10 maybe. That would be spectacular. He's not going to find his way around there. A great battle, Ed, not without contact.
Absolutely fabulous between the pair of them, and you can tell Zolt Zooks absolutely loves this place. He was putting on so many audacious moves in pro, including going around the outside of people at turn 4 and 5 and 6, and now the leaders got to respond because they know that Zooks and Callis will just eat into the pit window. Machete, I think, might be about to retake the lead from Schluter here.
Yeah, I suspect so. Up on the jacks for Schluter and Fournier, as there is Machete. Is any of the others going to stay out and take the lead here? Yes. There is someone staying out. Who was
Mancini.
that? Yeah, it is. Mancini stays out, so he will lead this race briefly. But who is going to lead it, really? Machete is going to fly through on the outside line. That's what we expected. Schluter has been undercut, but what does that mean later on for his tyre set and his tyre life here for Reuven Machete? He's currently second, then it's Schluter. Fournier's come out on the hard tyre, then it's Zooks, who's still on the medium. Same for Sander Callis, and you'd expect Zooks and Callis to make their way past Jeffrey Fournier in the not-too-distant future here, David. But interesting that the undercut was so powerful there for Reuven Machete to get him into the net race lead.
Yes, well, even a difference of 1 or 2 laps in tyre life at the end of this race is going to be very, very significant. And some of these guys, I think the first guys hit 3 laps earlier, so there's going to be a major difference in tyre condition if I'm right in my assumption that they'll pop on some softs towards the end. So it's a chess game at 200 miles an hour at the moment.
Absolutely is. Mancini has decided to stay out one more lap here to try and lead a lap here effectively. Mirko Mancini in the 55 car, debutant in the World Championship, and he's leading a lap in his very first race. A second and a half ahead of Reuven Machete at the moment, but that is going to be given up fairly quickly here. Mark Schluter will be up to second. Who's going to be up to third though? Zooks and Callis will be queuing up. This is further down the field. Zalagianis has gone for another set of mediums, as has Lehtinen, who seems to have lost a bit of time here in the pit stop phase. Viscott is still in 12th position here, still on the hard tyres. Hasn't been promoted very much through the field, unfortunately. Even despite starting on the hard tyres, he's still only 12th, despite not having pitted yet. Zalagianis and Lehtinen queuing in behind. Look at this. And hello, into the pit lane for Lehtinen. Is that his second stop already here, Ed? That can't be right.
I think so. There must be something wrong with that MV Conquest car, but look at his teammate Viscott being overtaken by Zalagianis. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there, but the Greek driver forces his way through. Zalagianis had such a horrible season last year, where he had, I think, more DNFs than anybody else put together, a lot of it through faulty connections. So good to see him having a much stronger race here, even though he's been undercut as Mancini moves aside for Ruben Machete. So the mediums are just absolutely finished as Machete goes well off track there at turn 10. And now Mark Schluter will be seeing that and wishing he was ahead of Mirko Mancini already, but he's got to make this move cleanly into turn 11.
Oh, it's tight into turn 11, and he's got it. Schluter through into second place. That was a bit more difficult than Ruben Machete found it, that's for sure. Mirko Mancini just running the racing line in the end, but he didn't exactly pull over for what Schluter, nor would you expect him to, since that is a battle for position out there on the racetrack. Down the hill again towards the final corner. Geoffrey Fournier still holding his own very well on these hard tyres, and maybe that puts him in good stead for the latter part of this race. Onto the start finish straight again. He's on the inside actually there. Hopefully there wasn't an awkward moment with Mancini trying to come. Oh, there was an awkward moment with Mancini trying to come to pit lane. That will have cost the Italian some time there. It may have cost Fournier some as well, as Zooks gets very close on the way towards turn 1. Zooks has actually got rid of Callas here at the front end of the field, and so that is a real benefit for Optimino. 3 of the top 4 places being taken by that team, and they haven't brought Sander Callas here, Ed, who's on another set of medium tyres with them.
Yep, interesting strategy called there, as we see Cam Roger picking off Lucas Viscott there. So we've got a man with years of experience in FSR overtaking our newcomer Lucas Viscott, of course. And Viscott still soldiering on, 20 laps on those hard tyres now, so doesn't seem to have quite worked out for the MV Conquest driver. Michael Leroux, by doing that earlier stop 6 laps ago for the hard tyre, he was able to undercut his way back past Zalagianis, and his lap times have improved. 1:31.4 last lap around, which is actually faster than Machete in the lead. So Mark Schluter still looks very, very quick here at this phase of the race on the mediums. Geoffrey Fournier, though, has been overtaken, as you say, by Zooks, and now it could be Callas that's next to challenge him before too long. So Fournier taking the pain of the hard tyres in this stint, but that could mean he gets the benefit later on when he switches back to the mediums.
Speaking of hard tyres, Mirko Mancini, who ran 20 laps on the medium, and I think was probably the longest medium runner, he's bolted on some hards. So clearly he's decided that he can't beat these guys on pure pace. He's going to throw his lot in on a 2-stopper and see if he can come up with a clever strategy to stay in the fight with a 2-stop.
It was notable, wasn't it, how long he stayed out here, the 20 laps that he did in the end. Could have coordinated his stop a little bit better, because Fournier was coming down his inside as he was trying to go to the right-hand side to come into the pit lane there. But either way, he is trying something a little bit different. And, you know, that's exactly what you've got to do here, David. If you're further down the field and you know you haven't got the speed, you've got to try something on strategy like that.
Well, indeed, Mirko was a very dominant racer in one of the lower level leagues in FSR a couple of years ago, and won the championship at a canter, really. So he's got some speed and some talent, but here in World Championship, they're the best drivers in the world, and you really have to push yourself and push your strategy.
It's tough competition. 2025 championship is absolutely wide open. I think it's worth noting as well, Ed, actually, looking back to 2024 and when we're looking at this race, it's very easy to say, especially when you've got so many new names, so many debutants and so many drivers who have never been in contention for the title before, it is so easy to say, well, these guys who finished up towards the front are definitely going to be championship contenders next time out. But 2 of the podium drivers who finished on the podium at Bahrain last year didn't finish in the top 4 of the championship. Indeed, the top 2 in the championship, who were fighting it out for the win at the end of the championship season, finished 7th and 8th here 12 months ago. We'll get back to that, because Mark Schluter is challenging Ruben Machete for the race lead here. 34 laps to go, sorry, at the end of this one. Schluter hasn't got quite a good exit off of turn 3 that he quite needed, and so he will stay behind Machete. But yeah, 7th and 8th for the 2 the championship battlers, sorry, in last season's World Championship. That's how much things can change from the first round onwards for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it does tend to be a little bit anomalous in terms of because we start off with, it's not only a night race, one of the few night races on the FSR calendar, but also, as we say, it's quite a unique track in terms of the way it puts the tyres through so much energy that sometimes, if you're very, very good at tyre saving on Bahrain in particular, then you can get a result. As we saw, Jan Granqvist quite remember getting that first career podium. The rest of the season didn't really quite go smoothly for that. For him, although he did, of course, have a great success in GPV Super League, which he did win, which was fantastic to see. But now Mark Schluter, another driver who's also won races in GPV Super League, is really throwing the kitchen sink at Machete at the moment. You saw the way Machete defended into turn one, which is really the point with DRS, where he's going to be the most vulnerable, as we see very, very close into the last corner again. But backing Schluter up, has that compromised. His exit doesn't look like it has. He opens DRS in a couple of seconds now, and now Machete is going to be caught much earlier down the straight this time, and it's the go team of Schluter that retakes the lead, just about cuts him off into the first corner there. So good awareness from the German, and the two Germans actually, of course. Mark Schluter is back in the lead on lap 24.
Don't forget that he's got that lap advantage in terms of tyre life as well here as Mark Schluter ahead of Reuven Machete. He's got that little bit of a buffer in terms of tyre wear. And right now, I've got to say, David, he does look a bit quicker here as we see Mancini coming through the field, as you'd expect him to do in the next few moments. Schluter seems to have a bit of a pace advantage, and he's got a tyre life advantage right now as well. He's got a deserving race lead coming up to halfway, and the race lead that might be quite difficult to get off him for the remainder of this one.
Yeah, well, he's got to capitalise on that, hasn't he? If he's got a bit of tyre life in his back pocket, he's got to use that while it's there. Also, just mentioning Tom Oldenmenger, I think if we'd said to him a week ago, would he be happy to be a couple of seconds behind Sander Callis 24 laps into this race, I think he would have ripped your arm off. And we had 3 full-length practice races here on this circuit, and Tom Oldenmenger did all 3 of them. So I think he's put the work in, and he's not in a bad position to be running 6th in a World Championship race.
Oh, you can see it's getting away from Machete here, just a little bit wide there through the final corner, and that is terrible news for him. He is starting to slip away from Mark Schluter, who is taking control of this race right now. That was definitely wide from Machete. I say at times that he does look a little bit ragged here, almost like he's sort of over his head trying to catch up and stay with Mark Schluter's pace right now.
Yeah, it can be dizzying, sort of fighting for the lead in the World Championship first time out as well, especially given, like I said, Reuven admitted that he didn't do very many laps at all in practice, and he even said after second pole position, not quite sure how I managed that, in the chat, as we see Viscott finally pits off of the hard tyres that he started on, and yeah, his pace was starting to hemorrhage, 1:37 that last lap, so it was probably good timing to come in, although part of that might be the in lap to the pit lane. But still, Machete, again, the rears just misbehaving slightly. There's also the factor that he's got his 2 teammates, of course. Zolt Zux is setting personal best laps of the race just a second behind him. So if he drops out of DRS of Schluter and sees the Hungarian Zux coasting up to the back of him, things get very interesting indeed. Fournier, for his part, has defended well on the hard tyres from Callas, who's just not looked like he's found any chinks in the armour of the Frenchman in front of him. So he's found a clearly worthy opponent. And as David and yourself pointed out, Tom Oldenmenger is starting to catch all of them by matching their lap times.
I think it's very interesting that, oh dear, as Machete is dropping down the field now, he got off somewhere, or has he had some sort of problem here? He seems to be stopped. Yeah, he's stopped off the side of the circuit. I think he might have had a technical problem here, Reuven Machete, unless he's had an accident. Reuven Machete, who's led quite a lot of laps already this afternoon, has had to retire from the Bahrain Grand Prix just 25 laps into this one. Not even half distance. Reuven Machete here, Ed, looks like he's out. That looked like a technical fault to me. I didn't see anything wrong with this car.
Yeah, he just popped out all of a sudden. That looked, strongly suspect that was a disconnection there. And hopefully we can confirm that soon. But that's really disappointing, as you say, because Reuven put in such a strong performance, was very much in contention to take the early lead in the what I've named after our rookie champion from last season, the Owen McGorgy Rookie Cup, Rookie Trophy. And now I think it might actually be Tom Oldenmenger that's the leading. How many races has Tom Oldemnger done in the World Championship? He's certainly not more than 8. I think he's only done a small handful, like 2 or 3. So I think Oldemnger does count as a World Championship rookie, but him and Giuseppe Saracino will probably be the 2 leaders there. And Saracino, considering he's sort of skipped pro and technically gone well up to the World Championship immediately, he's only about 2.5 seconds behind Oldemnger, which I think is a pretty solid feat in of itself. But now Mark Schluter has got that 3-second gap with the demise of Machete, and he's going to try and take full advantage of that. So Optimal all of a sudden find themselves potentially fighting amongst themselves and Grand Effect for 2nd place.
Yeah, Oldemnger actually got 15 starts, by the way, in the World Championship.
Oh, he does, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be Saracino then.
Yeah, he's made his debut in 2019, Oldemnger, but didn't score any points till 2022 in his 3rd appearance in the series. Actually did the full season in 2022, which is where he gets all his starts from, other than a few ones here and there misplaced around the place, as he made a few guest appearances, much like we're seeing from lots of Cam Roger this afternoon, by the way. 11th place, stepping in for Matt Tewson this afternoon. He's never finished inside the top 10 in the World Championship before. He's currently in 11th place, just chasing down Zala Giannis, as you can see there. 2 Ground Effect SimRacing drivers, 10th and 11th in the field. And gone for the medium tyres for the 2nd stint of the race. 30 laps to go. He's going to try and push himself on to a point where he can get the hards on and get to the end of the race. I wonder what Fournier's plan is for this point in the race here, David. He's running very well on the hard tyres compared to what we've seen before. He's turning this tyre into a decent race tyre through the middle point of the race.
Yeah, well, that's very impressive, because I think he's the only person who's really made the hard tyre work that well. Although I must say Saracino behind him on hards and Hanko on the hards, they're lapping reasonably quickly as well. Maybe the track's rubbing in, and maybe this was the time to bolt them on.
There may be still a few drivers at the field. 3 of the top 4 are still yet to take a different compound of tyres this afternoon. They've gone medium so far in this race. There is Geoffrey Fournier, though, sandwiched in between 2 of them, Zooks and Callas. And we're going to reach a bit of a holding pattern here, Ed, in the next point in the race, as we get towards halfway. I wonder how far these mediums can be taken, and whether these guys on the second set of mediums are going to be able to get themselves into a position where they can get to the end of the race here on a reasonable speed. There's 29 to go at the end of this one. I reckon, they only need a few more, and then they're in a window where they can put the hards on and get to the end of the race, but they may well need to do a bit of defending for the likes of Geoffrey Fournier.
Well, it's always the thing, is that you want to run a bit longer, but then you're vulnerable at the end of your stint as your tyres turn to cheese effectively, and you don't want that. But also, you ideally want to get that powerful undercut working to your advantage by pitting early and coming out ahead. And now Geoffrey Fournier on those harder tyres is actually starting to lap 2/10 quicker than Zoltzuks in front of him, but Mark Schluter still the only driver lapping in the high 130s at the moment. So I wonder, will Optimal come to decide that Fournier is probably their better hope for victory than Zooks, or will they stay in position as is? Because at the moment, Fournier could start being held up by a driver on degrading mediums in front of him, when if they want to keep him in the mix for victory, they've got to sort of make sure he's got some clear air here, in my opinion. But he is still getting the DRS, which will help him a little bit to get closer and closer to his teammate. Again, it's sort of an awkward situation for Optimal, where there's that big gap in front of them, and like I said, they might find themselves fighting for second. And now Callas knows, having been stuck behind Fournier for so long, he needs these two to sort of trip over each other to stand a chance of finishing on the podium at the way things are running at the moment. Oh, and a big mistake from Zooks.
That was a big mistake, and Fournier slowed down by that. Unfortunately, that's pretty unusual. The driver on the hard tyres, the one being held up by the driver on the softs, and that has allowed Sander Callas into the equation here. Not ideal for Optimal, who've still got 2 inside the podium places as things stand. Sander Callas trying to infiltrate that at the moment on those better tyres, but I'm not sure how much better they're actually going to be here, Ed. Surely they're going to be dropping away at some stage, and Fournier is actually going to be the one with the most tyre life at some point. Not sure it's quite reached that point yet, but some point soon.
Yeah, certainly Callas and Zooks were the first of the lead group to come into the pits, weren't they? So in theory, they should be the most vulnerable here. And of course, Oldemnger, if you look behind, he's only lapping about a 10th off the pace over Sander Callas in front of him. So Callas, in theory, switching to the medium was a good call, but now he's been stuck behind these two optiminals. It means he's got no real space in which to use all that latent race pace. And finally, Zux decides to bail into the pit lane from second position, which is interesting then on the mediums. Again, first to pull the trigger after sort of 15 lap stint on the mediums, then a 13 lap stint. So it's going to be fascinating to see as he goes for another set of mediums. So he's very much committed to that free stop, as David correctly predicted earlier on. And we'll have to see where Hungarian emerges. Through goes Michael Leroux and Zalagianis as well. So he's in between the two ground effects.
Yes.
Just surprising, isn't it, that he ran a shorter second stint than his first one, because the second stint, track's a bit more rubbered in, you've got a bit less fuel, and you really should be getting a couple more laps out of those mediums, not a couple left. But I guess he's done the maths and decided if he puts this extra set of mediums on, it's going to get into his window for his final stop faster.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting call, though. I do wonder what tyres he's going to put on for the end as well, because if he does another stint like that, 13 laps, he's still going to have, what, 16 to go. So it might even be hard tyres towards the end. I would have thought 3 mediums and a soft, but maybe that's not even going to be possible towards the end here. Tyre life not staying with Zoltzuks, it looks like, so far in this race. Mark Klüter is now controlling this one. End of lap 30. He will stay on the medium for that little bit longer here, Ed, and he's going to extend his championship lead, his race lead. So could be a championship lead at the end of the day, but for now it's just a race lead. Just under 7 seconds now his margin, but he needs to keep extending that. He can't rest on his laurels just yet, because Fournier has got a faster tyre set than him coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd think Geoffrey Fournier is waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger and take action here in the pit stops, but we now see Zoltzuks closing to the back of Zalagianis. And can Zalagianis do anything to halt his progress on those older tyres? The old mediums versus the new mediums. It's clearly Zux that's ahead of his former teammate and stablemate as he gets the optimal through into 9th position. And next up, there'll be a succession of the hard tyre runners that are running a bit longer in this stint than he did. So he's going to have to try and clear the Go teams one after the other, though. But Zux not really in the pit window of Mark Schluter just yet, 27 seconds behind, but it'll be fascinating. He should comfortably come out ahead of Fournier when Fournier goes into the pits.
Yeah, you'd think so, you'd hope so. Indeed, Michael Leroux is in 8th place at the moment. Zoltzuks is going to be in behind him pretty shortly. That's a little bit wider. You know, I recognise what you said earlier, David, about getting to that final stop a bit quicker, but the reason why I maybe would disagree with Zux that it will is all this traffic in front. Admittedly, it's only Leroux for the moment, but you don't know who's going to pop out in front of you in the next few moments. I'd be a bit more concerned if I was Zux about that traffic that he'll have to overtake over the course of the next few laps before everybody else makes their second pit stop of the day.
Well, 100%, and I think a good comparator is Sander Callas, because I'm pretty sure Callas and Zux pretty much were joined at the hip for that first stint and that first pit stop, stopped together on the same lap, lap 16. Callas has stayed out and he's in 3rd place and still making reasonable lap time. So he's extended that second stint to what you would think would be a logical length, and we'll go 31, 30, 32 laps, maybe 33 laps, and see if he can do something from there.
Well, he's got through on Leroux without too many problems that time around, but I always worry about those moments, Ed, when you're trying to come through traffic, and especially when there's an urgency and you need to do it quickly. Just have visions of it all going wrong. Thankfully for that time, Zux, it didn't, and he's up to 8th place without too much difficulty.
Yeah, and sets the personal best lap of the race in the process, 1:30.6. That was 0.3 quicker than Mark Schluter. So it does bring the pressure on our race leader just a little bit, that he might get undercut if Zux can sort of keep the trend going. But of course, as you say, he's got so many of Schluter's teammates to deal with. And Pascal, Anko, Saracino, they will be tougher nuts to crack, I suspect, as Zux puts the optimal car through its paces then. But it is interesting, because it's a riskier call to have to go through all the traffic, but luckily they are fairly spaced out, and he can sort of pick them off one at a time. When they're fighting each other, that's when things get a little bit more tricky.
It certainly does. To midfield we go again. This is Cam Roger versus Mirko Mancini. A set of hard tyres right now is Mancini after that long first stint of the race. He's lost too much time to the leaders now to be leading any more laps here this afternoon, but he might well get a better result than he otherwise might have by taking on this alternate strategy, which he has done. He will might get a bit closer to Roger. He's not going to be able to do that this time round. DRS enabled a little bit further down the straight in towards turn number 1 than what you get in F1. As off in the final sector is Viscott through the penultimate corner, actually, through turn 13. So he might have just gone a bit wide and spun out there, Ed. Pretty easy place to do it, but he's not lost any places that really. He's still down in 15th as before.
Yeah, it's just a case of Luca Viscott trying to minimise the mistakes, but of course it's still his first race. There's still a lot to learn for him, and he really only had that one or two pretty solid finishes in the Academy Championship last season, if memory serves. Yes, he was 5th in the Singapore Grand Prix, which was his best result last year for the Czech driver, and now he sort of finds himself sort of thrown in the deep end, it must be said, and for the most part still just be running, and he'll get a point at the end if he does in 15th. That would still be considered a pretty decent first time out for him, as we see Sander Callas finally pit from 3rd, and he's almost certainly going to be undercut here by Zux. But is this the point where he goes for the hards? Yes, he does. And I wonder, is Sander, let's see, 23 laps to go, he could go to the end on that set of hards.
I suspect he might well do. Zux is going to go past him on the biggest undercut you've ever seen. He will go through. Oh, is it going to be traffic though for Callas? It might be. LaRue's going to get past. He won't be worried about his teammate getting through. Zalagianis, yeah, there you go. He'll just give him a very wide berth there, Zalagianis. But Callas has got to pass LaRue. And Michael LaRue could very much help out his teammate Mark Schluter, and maybe the likes of Sarantino as well, by just holding up as much as possible. This is Mancini versus Roger now on the way towards turn 4. And Roger on the better compound, but whether they're in a good enough condition right now to be fighting with Mirko Mancini, we're about to find out. Side by side. Oh, and a wheel bang as well coming out the corner. He does get through. Oh, still side by side though. Good racing between the two. That was pretty close to contact there, Ed, and Cam Roger just about gets himself into 11th.
Yeah, nearly flew over the curb there at 5 and 6 did Mancini, and reminds me of another race I commentated on with some big drivers in Le Mans Ultimate, where there was a huge coming together on the first lap at those corners because the drivers just didn't quite leave each other enough space. So even the top drivers can get it wrong there, but mercifully disaster avoided. It's always a surreal feeling to me to see a yellow ground effect and a red valet, when it's usually valet that's the yellow car, but with the Vega sponsorship they've gone for the black and red livery, and Mancini running a bit longer on the hards, not quite able to keep the former El Presidente, predecessor, I'm trying to make it, I don't think there's a Spanish word for predecessor, so I'm not going to try anymore, but yeah, Cam Roger will be pleased with that one, that he survived and also got through, as we see somebody going very slowly into the pits, as move being made on LaRue by, that looks like Callas.
Yeah, Callas through without too many difficulties. Giannis into pit lane. Oh, look at this. Mancini and Roger so can't leave each other alone. A bit of defence there from the ground effect driver, but Mancini goes firing down the inside, and he stops himself on the apex basically there to hold on to 10th position, what is now 10th place anyway. And that is Mancini up into the top 10 without too much difficulty in the end. Roger gave it a bit of a defence on the way towards turn number 1, but Mirko Mancini was able to supersede that and go through into 10th position, and now use those hard tyres, you'd imagine, to good effect to try and get away in the top 10. We'll see what tyres he puts on for the very end of this race. Go ahead.
Mancini, he looked like he used a lot of push to pass when he did that dive bomb into the first corner. As we cut to Schluter continuing to lead Fournier by now 7 seconds. Fournier is only lapping about 3/10 slower on the hards, but Mark Schluter nonetheless doing a fabulous job to keep those mediums that he's done 17 laps on, so he's gone longer than he did in the first stint, and they're still very competitive set of tyres then. So Mark Schluter is making the difference in this race, and at the moment he's still 25.8 seconds ahead of Zoltz. So if he pit now, he would still be a couple of seconds ahead of the Optimal driver, who's probably one of his closest rivals along with Fournier in this race.
You can start to see here, David, that Geoffrey Fournier is gaining a little bit on Schluter, but this is a big gap for Fournier to try and overcome now in the last 21 laps of this race, even despite the tyre advantage he's going to have.
Well, I think Schluter is due to pit within a lap or two, because I think he stopped about lap 18, maybe 19. I think
It was
the
18,
last. Yeah. So he's gone the same distance again on his mediums, and he can't make it home from here on a soft. So I guess he's just going to weigh up if he's got to bolt on the hards, when's the best time to bolt them on? Is he going to start leaking too much lap time now? But to his credit, I mean, his last lap was a 31.2. He's been very quick for very long stints, hasn't he? This has been an impressive drive by Schluter.
Yeah, he has been consistent and quick throughout, but another 18-lap stint comes to a close. End of lap 36, with 21 laps to go. You'd imagine this is going to be hard tyres to the end of the race for Schluter, unless he's doing something really wild and going for two softs or something weird. But no, it's hard tyres as expected. And where is he going to come out in relation to Zooks, who will still have to stop again, you'd imagine, but might well take the virtual race lead as things stand, but maybe not even that. Schluter is so far in front of the rest of the field that even the monster undercut that Zooks has been getting here is not going to be of any help. There he is in the background. Zooks on relatively old mediums, with Schluter out on new hards just in front here. Don't even think, Ed, that's going to be enough for Zooks to get past.
Yep, he's in the rearview mirror quite firmly there, and Schluter, of course, has got his teammates ahead, Pascal, Hanko and Saracino, all of whom you would expect would be quite helpful and cooperative, being on different strategies here, whereas they might not get, Zooks might not get as a warmer welcome from them when he goes up to the back of them a few laps after. But yeah, nonetheless, of course, this temporarily puts Geoffrey Fournier in the lead on the hard time. Be interesting to see if any of these hard runners can run long enough to put the softs on for maybe the final 10 laps or so, depending on how confident they're feeling on tyre preservation on the softs. Is now Zalagianis, who hit just before Michael Leroux and has come out just behind him, I think, is now in that battle. They're both on the hard tyres trying to get to the end, and Zalagianis will be a little bit frustrated that he's been sort of leapfrogged by the Frenchman for the second time in a row, despite leading him in the first stint.
Yeah, it will be frustrating to just keep having to redo your old work, which is what's happening at the moment. 5 seconds though the gap out front for Geoffrey Fournier, who is still leading the Bahrain Grand Prix, ahead of Tom Oldenburger. Saracino is in third place, ahead of Hanko and then Pascal, with Schluter next in line, but he's about to get through on one of his teammates here, David. That's one of the big advantages of being part of the Go Team Racing squad this season. You've got plenty of teammates out there. Schluter's going to find these overtakes much easier than the likes of Zooks and Sander Callas are.
Yeah, well, indeed. It's nice to have a bit of cooperation. I'm just looking here that his gap to the current leader, Geoffrey Fournier, is only 13 seconds. And I think you guys were saying pit lane delta is about 21, 22. So if things stayed as they were and Fournier pitted, he's going to come out 7 seconds behind. So really, I'm just wondering if Fournier did medium and hard. I wonder if Fournier is going to try and go a bit longer and put those softs on and really come back at him.
I think we can't count out Fournier just yet at all. He's probably the most experienced in the World Championship of anybody in this series this season. We've seen him finish in the top 5 in the World Championship in the past. Sander Callas has got some good season finishes to his name as well. Let's not forget, 7th place in 2022 is no mean feat after all. He finished about 100 or so points off of Colin Spork, who won his first title that year. But let's see who wins this opening race of the season. As we mentioned earlier, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it's a great start to the season. This is Geoffrey Fournier, who pits in with 19 laps to go. That's a long end stint on the medium tyres, if that's what it's going to be here. It's side by side there between Zooks and Pascal. You see Pascal there just defending from Zooks as much as he can to try and hold him up, but he couldn't quite do it there, Ed. Zooks goes through even on those getting warm medium tyres.
Yeah, I would suspect Zooks might be one of the drivers that pits for a stint on softs at the end, but Geoffrey Fournier, of course, he's behind Pascal, but crucially ahead of Sander Callas, I believe. So this has actually worked out pretty well for him. Just 6/10 in it between the pair of them there. But yeah, Fournier now on the softer gunpowder tyre should be very, very quick in this final stint of the race. and it shouldn't be long, I suspect, before he starts eating up the road between himself and Christian Pascal. So yeah, Schluter with a significant lead, but Fournier has got to be the main danger man to him. And Zux, we expect, will have to come in again, because I don't think those mediums, well, he hasn't used any tyre other than the medium, so he'll have to use something different. He wouldn't have been running this long if he was going for the hard, so I think the softs must be the next port of call then, as we see a few more pit stops near the back. Peter Knapp, the reigning Academy champion, coming in for a service along with Luca Viscott.
Oh, not far actually from going a lap down, by the way, in the race. You can see in the background Tom Oldermanger. Well, he would have come through to lap them, or nearly lap them, but he's going to the pit lane as well. So is Sarcino actually from second position here. So it looks, I know Hanko's going to come into pit lane as well here, the reigning pro champion, making another appearance in the World Championship. Oh, well, Hanko not getting that entry right, and thankfully Tom Oldermanger didn't have to get out quite so soon, otherwise there could have been a collision between those two. Saracino gets going as well as Hanko now on the exit of the pit lane. Fournier, Callis all go through. Oldermanger is going to be out next though. I think that's a virtual fourth place at the moment, but might well be third when Zux comes into pit lane. I think that's who Tom Oldermanger's racing at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, Ed, for a podium finish maybe.
Quite possibly, but it depends how this plays out, of course. Oldermanger has played it very, very cool and canny. That tends to be the way he approaches his racing, and it tends, more often than not, to play out for him. Now we see that gap to Callis will be fascinating to see, because he, of course, on the harder tyre, he's got to do all the payment at the end. We know Christian Pascal sort of owes us a pit stop here, so it'd be interesting to see how much longer he runs, but I suspect he might pit out of Geoffrey Fournier's way rather than even getting the chance to hold him up here. And that should open things up for the sort of fight for the final podium positions. I think Mark Schluter might be just a little bit too far ahead unless Geoffrey Fournier can unlock some serious pace in this final stint. But Schluter, of course, has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:30.051. So that really shows you he's just got this latent pace under his belt there. And yeah, let's have to see how things work out in these final 17 laps.
Well, I mean, what do you reckon here, David? I mean, we've got 17 laps to go. 48, 10 seconds to catch over Mark Schluter with a tyre compound advantage. Is that too much of a gap, maybe, to bridge too far in the Bahrain Grand Prix?
16 laps and 9 seconds. Well, you'd have to think it would be a good chance, except for Schluter has just been so quick. He has been so quick. It's going to be a big challenge for Fournier. Zoltan Zux, I'm pretty confident he will run to about lap 47 and just do 10 laps on the soft, because he's pitted at lap 16 and then at lap 29. So he did a 16 lap and then a 13 lap stint on mediums. He's not going to push it all that much further than that to get to lap, say, 47. And he knows that the softs go off like an ice cream on the beach, because Tom Oldenminger got him 2 laps from the end in one of the practice races when Zux bolted on the softs, and he found out how quickly they go off. So he will not want to put the softs on too far out, and he's gone too long to put on the hard. So I'm going to say lap 45 to 47, Zux will pit for softs and try to do his best from there.
Yeah, I suspect that is what the Optimal driver is going to do. Here he is. 16 laps to go. Probably a bridge too far at the moment from the soft tyre perspective. I think what they might have been hoping for here, Ed, is for Zux to come out ahead of Schluter after a really big undercut and then try and hold him up maybe. That might have helped Fournier, but that's not quite worked out. And Schluter on new hard tyres versus Zux on old mediums. There's only going to be one winner there, and that is the race leader, who is extending his advantage now to Zux.
Yeah, Zux, I think, has still done a pretty good job, considering how far behind he was when he pit, and the amount of cars he's had to pass, and how long he's stretched these mediums in this stint, nearly as much as he did in the first 2 medium stints. He's done 12 laps so far, and his pace is, as you say, he's been dropped by Schluter, and he's got Fournier lapping in the 29.8, fastest lap of the race, about 5 seconds exactly behind him. So yeah, I think it's just going to be a case of if Fournier gets within a second, I don't expect Zux will in particularly hard. Where Zux is going to come out at the moment, he would come out a couple of seconds behind Patrick Hanko and in front of Christian Pascal. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make up positions in that final stint without the softs completely going away from him, as we see Mancini. Now it's a role reversal from what we saw earlier on between him and Roger in their battle for 11th, because it's Mancini who gets to use the yellow-walled soft tyres, whereas Roger has to defend on the slower but more durable hard compound of tyre. And Cam Roger seems to be enjoying his return to the World Championship. From the outside at least, I think he'll be pretty keen to keep Mancini at bay in Mancini's first World Championship appearance, although these two raced each other in pro a number of times last season and seem to be relishing rejoining the battle.
A while since we've seen Cam Roger in the World Championship. Did 2 races in 2023, scoring a couple of points on that occasion, although that's back when top 20 was enough for a point scoring finish. So it's been a year and a half at least since Cam Roger took part in the SimRacing World Championship in 2023, and this is going to be his best result for some time, that is for sure. Maybe his best result ever, depending on if he can get that top 10 or not. Let's wait and see here. It might not be a top 10, but let's see. Machete will close in on the way towards turn number 1, and Roger backs out of that pretty early. Oh, fires down the inside. Machete quite late on the brakes there, and both squirming under power here, trying to get going again off of turn number 3. Is there going to be more of a battle here into turn 4? There certainly is, all the way to the right hand side. Roger on the inside better line, but it's the outside for Mancini. It's the better tyre compound, Ed, and he manages to get into 11th.
That looked definitely like Roger was using a bit of push to pass into turn 3 and up towards turn 4 there to try and get back up the inside. So he's not giving up that 11th position without a fight. But yeah, Mancini knew he had the advantage here, and it is a question of who's got the most push to pass left to play with and who can just escape up the road quickly enough. On those mediums, Mancini just seems much more of a match for anything that Roger can throw at him on those hard tyres. So Salagianis next up the road has got, of course, 6.7 second gap to Mancini. Mancini is lapping about 7/10 a lap quicker than him at the present moment, so it'll be interesting to see that there is time enough for Mancini to sneak his way into the top 10. But Salagianis, who I think his best result was a 12th at Spa last season, one of the few races that he finished last year. No, it was 14th, sorry, at Spa. This would still be a really, really strong result to get his first top 10 in the World Championship. So we've got these two relatively inexperienced drivers going at it hammer and tongs and proving that they are World Championship material, or very, very keen to do so either way. But Mark Schluter, of course, seems to just have this race comfortably in hand. Has been a couple of tenths quicker than Zux continuously, lap by lap. And so Zux is getting up towards the pit window now to change the softs, as Jeffrey Fournier is within about 2.6 seconds of him. Fournier, though, still the fastest man on track, and we have to praise the Frenchman's performance because he has really stepped up to the plate and made that alternate strategy, switching to the hards in the second stint and going back to the mediums. He's made it work for him.
It's looking comfortable at the moment for Mark Schluter, that is for sure. You referenced it earlier on. Last time he was at the Bahrain International Circuit in a Formula SimRacing World Championship race was when he hit his teammate in towards turn 4 on the very first lap. Ended up finishing 22nd that afternoon and never got inside the top 8 all season in terms of a finishing position. Only finished 4 out of the 8 races he participated in. 9th place twice was his best result, but this is the man trying to take that first race win away from him here. 12 laps to go at the line. Jeffrey Fournier has still got 7.5 seconds to close in here, David. I'm not sure this is coming down quickly enough right now.
Yeah, last couple of laps it's been a 0.6 and a 0.5, and I was trying to do some mental arithmetic and multiply 0.6 of a second by 12, and I think it's too late in the evening for my mental arithmetic to work very well, but it's probably about 7 seconds, and he's about 7.8 seconds off the lead. So, and that's just to catch him. You've still got to pass him. So, yeah, I think we're going to have a sort of a edge of the seat final couple of laps between the two of them. But he'd be doing very, very well to get past him, considering as well that Schluter on the hard hasn't quite got the same dead curve that he's got on the mediums.
Exactly, the wear on these tyres is going to change significantly over the course of the remainder of this one. Zooks meanwhile comes into the pit lane, gives his teammate a bit of a slipstream, and then pulls off into the lane, and Geoffrey Fournier will be up to second. So Zooks is going to be very exciting to watch in these final moments. So those mediums went away. He's going to put the softs on here, Ed, and where is he going to get to? He'll come out in 7th place with hopes of getting at least back into the top 5.
Yep, through there goes Hanko, and as expected then, Zooks is going to emerge in that comfortable gap just ahead of Christian Pascal then, who is just going to see. It's always annoying when you see someone pit and come out ahead of you, because you know you're not going to catch them back up again, especially on the soft tyres. As Geoffrey Fournier has set another fastest lap, 7/10 quicker than Mark Schluter there. He is really trying to push these tyres while they're in good condition to try and maximise the advantage that he has at the moment. But yeah, Zooks chewing through the field will be interesting, but also keep your eyes on Giuseppe Saracino, who's really starting to match Tom Oldermenger, and he's only 1.6 seconds behind the Dutchman as well. So Saracino, the highest of our rookies at the moment, beating even our pro champion Patrick Hanko from last season, has put in a really, really strong performance. He always seems to go well at Bahrain. I think he won every academy race at Bahrain that he did in the last 2 seasons. So, and he's on the ragged edge, as you say, Ewan.
Oh my God, that was very scary. I thought that was going to be a hideous accident, but thankfully Saracino held on to it. That is not a place you want to be losing the rear end through turn 12. It's one of those corners that, especially these days with the slightly less downforce, certainly than the 2021 era real life Formula 1 cars, these days it's just a little bit on the edge. You certainly don't want to be having a loose moment through there, that is for sure. But Saracino currently inside the top 5 and doing a good job right now, just in front of Hanko, who has got 9 seconds over Zooks. I do wonder where Zooks can get to here, David. You mentioned the tyres are going to fall off quite steeply towards the end here on the softs. He's the only driver to use them as far as I'm aware. We'll see where he gets to here, but he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, he came out and made the maths very easy because it was 10 laps and 10 seconds, so even I could calculate that. But yeah, he may well find, well, what tyres is Hanko on? Sorry, I haven't looked at that.
Mediums.
Okay, Hanko's on the mediums, he's on the softs. Yeah, well, I think if he's got best part of a second in hand per lap, that'll only last for 4 or 5 laps, and then it will just drop away. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun watching him try.
Will. It certainly will. It's been a fun race to watch so far. The opening round of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in the 2025 campaign here at Bahrain. 10 races between now and the middle of December to decide our 2025 champion. Not a single driver in this field has ever won a World Championship race before, and so we're going to get a new winner for the very first time. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be between Mark Schluter and Geoffrey Fournier. Schluter on the Go Team Racing squad this team, having never finished inside the top 8 in a World Championship race before, and last time he visited here, hit one of his teammates into this corner on the very opening lap. Hopefully he's put those demons to bed, and he might even do it in the best possible way with a race victory. Geoffrey Fournier in the background is driving for Optimal this time round, Optimal eSports. He has been on the podium in the past in the World Championship, but never in second or first, and so tonight looks like it's going to be his best of his life in the World Championship. Only one retirement, and it has come from the Optimal eSports team, sadly. Reuven Machete with PC trouble earlier on in the race put an end to a great opening run. As I mentioned earlier, Ed, this race does not define the championship by any means. None of the top 3 finished in the top 2 of last year's championship. They weren't championship contenders going into the last round. Anything can happen between now and the final race of the season.
Yeah, it certainly can. I think Viscott has just been lapped by Schluter, which is, in a way, I'm impressed that Viscott was able to stay on the lead lap for as long as he did, despite his lack of experience at this level. He was, as I keep saying, very much thrown in at the deep end, and he's actually done a pretty respectable job. And Gasset Latin, and even still ahead of Peter Knapp, the reigning Academy champion. So, yeah, the MV Conquest team may be a little bit lower down the field, but both drivers should be set to score a couple of very valuable points in their championship. Remember, we have also got Ron Squire, who's entering a team into the World Championship and Pro for race round 2 onwards, as we see Oldermenge is tucked right up behind Sander Callis, and he's going for the podium here. Oldermenge has been waiting to do this with those medium tyres. He goes up the inside, and has Sander Callis got anything in response here as they go through turns 2 and 3? He gets a good exit here, tucks right in behind, and he's going to be on the push to pass, surely, Ewan.
Callis down, oh no. Well, I thought he would be more aggressive in towards turn 4 actually, but Callis gives away the podium, and Tom Oldermenge's there now. Saracino in 5th place is just hanging back here, and Hanko not too far away either on the medium tyres. Don't forget Callis cut adrift at the moment on the hard tyres, running towards the end of this race. One of only 2 drivers inside the top 5 still running those for the moment, and so not only is it going to be Oldermenge here, Ed, it's going to be Saracino also looking for a way through, surely, and the way that battle just went, it could be quite a quick pass as well for Saracino to make.
Yeah, and Zux, of course, setting fastest laps of the race, 1:29.1 in the background, about 7 seconds behind Patrick Hanko, so he's only about 9 seconds behind this particular battle we're seeing now. So if Callis really starts to hemorrhage time on the hard tyres relative to the opposition on softer rubber, then he could be in trouble here. Saracino fancies, is not just content with being the best rookie, he fancies a P4 overall, which would be quite the big result for the Italian here at a circuit that he clearly relishes and excels on.
Into the front straight again, lap 50 now of the Bahrain Grand Prix. And Saracino is in the DRS and the slipstream of Sander Callis now, looking for 4th. Inside, not quite. Can't quite do it. We've got 4 different teams, by the way, inside the top 4 positions right now, and Saracino is just looking to try and disrupt that right now in the 5th position for Go Team Racing. Coming towards turn 4, he's not quite close enough at this time, David, but I think he's got to strike quite soon, because those mediums surely are going to be reaching a bit of a levelling point with the hards quite soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the fascinating things about this race is the final stanza here. We've got 3 different types of tyre compound that have resulted from decisions that occurred on probably lap 16 or lap 17 of the race, and fascinating to see how that impacts the results. And I was just there looking at Dalton Sooks on that subject. He's now within about 6 seconds, 5.5, 6 seconds of Patrick Hanko. But yeah, amazing stuff.
It's a great end to the opening round of the season. 7 laps to go. Doesn't look like we're quite going to get the battle for the race win that maybe we were hoping for, but we are going to get battles for the podium places, that's for sure. Oldermenge currently holds the last of them ahead of Callis, and then Saracino, who is in the 5th position. This could be a great day for the Go Team Racing squad as they look to take the points lead at the first race of the season in the team's championship. Sander Callis helpless right now to defend that 4th position. He's on the hard tyres, and he needs to wait for those to come in a little bit, and he needs to wait for Saracino's mediums to go away a little bit in towards turn number 1. He's got the inside line as the Italian, and he's through. Here comes Callis there on the exit with another good run out of turn 3, and he's chasing him around a little bit more. He wasn't so aggressive in trying to win it back from Oldermenge earlier, and he's same again for Saracino. Doesn't go around the outside at turn number 4 here, Ed. He seems to be giving up these places fairly easily at the moment, knowing that his tyres aren't quite up to the challenge just yet.
Yes, 6 lap delta between the both of them as well, so not only a better compound for Saracino, but yeah, Callis, you can feel a little bit of desperation there as he was just sort of weaving around, looking to try and scare Saracino off the road a little bit, but it didn't quite work out for him, unfortunately. So Callis is just trying to, in damage limitation mode here, needs to make sure he doesn't leave the door open for Patrick Hanko. But Hanko has still got 6 laps to go, and of course he's got Zoltzuks only 5.5 seconds behind. So if he gets held up by Callis too much here, it could open a door for the optimal eSports driver as well. So this is going to be a very, very tight battle for 5th in the closing stages. But meanwhile, Mark Schluter is now lapping about half a second, 4/10 quicker per lap than Jeffrey Fournier behind him, and is extending the gap back up to 7 seconds as Hanko, well, he's telegraphing his intentions quite a way in advance, isn't he, Ewan?
He's not making any secret of what he wants to do right now. It's going to be a great drive for Hanko here to get in the top 5 if he can, and it looks like he will do as well here. Inside line, and Hanko maybe makes the easiest of them all in towards turn number 1. Callis has been coming back progressively more aggressively here in towards turn 4, so let's see if he does that again. He's got a bit of a wiggle there though through turn 2. He's not going to get anywhere near Hanko now into the top 5, and no. So Callis is 6th. I wonder here, Ed, whether he's going to look over his shoulder and think, oh, Zooks is going to catch me here as well. There he is on the soft tyres. Better compound, better tyre life as well. Less than 4 seconds the gap.
Oh, 1:32.1 last lap for Callis, so Zooks in the 1:29.4s is nearly 2 seconds per lap quicker at the moment, and he's only 4.6 seconds behind. He's going to catch before the end, but as we warned, there is the tyres turning to goo scenario for Zooks. Callis may not be able to get them to perform that well, but at least they're in decent shape and they're not going to wear as quickly, even after 18 laps of running them as hard as he has. This is really a consequence of Callis being stuck behind Fournier in that stint that Fournier did on the hard tyre, and that was really what, as David was implying, that stint was really what ended up defining how things played out, of course.
Absolutely. Well, David, 4 laps to go, or 5 actually, as Suter comes across the line, 4 next time round. I'm not sure how Callis is going to be feeling at the end of this race, but maybe one of disappointment, really. 6th place for one of the most experienced World Championship drivers. Not sure whether it's strategy or speed that he's just been lacking, but at the moment, he's going to be under pressure for even 6th place in a moment.
Yeah, it's, I mean, he's a very credentialed driver. You were talking before about, I think, his end of season standings in one of the championships, but I was doing my homework earlier today and looking at it, and he had multiple top 5 finishes, but a lot of DNFs. So actually, on pace, he was a very strong contender for a top 5 position over the World Championship season. So he is no slouch. And it was quite interesting. One of the practice races, I was in voice chat with Tom Oldenmenger, and when Sander Callis turned up and joined the server, Tom Oldenmenger was impressed that Sander Callis was even here. So I think Tom is going to be pretty damn happy with himself if he ends up 2 or 3 places up the grid from somebody as experienced and as quick as Sander Callis.
Oldenmenger at the moment looks on course for a podium, but he's only got 3 seconds to nurse. As you mentioned earlier, Ed, he's gaining about 2 seconds a lap at the moment on Callis' Zooks, and in towards turn number 1, you'd expect him to have a very good chance of getting through.
Yep, and of course, these two were fighting together at the beginning of the race, aren't they? So it's come back around full circle, in a manner of speaking, and now Zooks has got the advantage against the Estonian in front of him, of course, Sander Callis, who, as we say, so experienced, so slow off at the apex there as he gingerly tries to just avoid losing the rear tyres. There we see a late stop from Lucas Viscott, but now Zooks takes up position, goes to the right-hand side, and Sander Callis looks a little bit powerless to halt his progress there, and the ground effect driver beaten back to 7th position there. So now Zooks, with 3 laps still to go, is about 2.8 seconds behind Patrick Hanko, so who is right behind Giuseppe Saracino. So the fight for 4th may not be over yet.
Absolutely not. This is pretty congested at this part of the field. That for Hanko. He's growing into this race as the more it goes on here. The reigning Pro Series champion, looking for a good result in the World Championship for the Go Team Racing squad here. It's about 20 seconds off of Mark Saluto, who surely is going to go on to win this race this afternoon in just 3 laps time. Who is going to finish in the top 5 though, and in what order? But overall, Ed, what a great day for the Go Team Racing squad, who are just getting better year on year, no matter what class of car they're in, no matter what series they're in. They're getting stronger as time goes on, and this is underscoring that at the moment. 3 of them in the top 5.
Yeah, of course, in the World Championship last year, I'm pretty sure Go Team were last on 45 points, a respectful 45 points, because it was a ground effect and optimal that only just beat them on 58 and 59 points respectively. So even at the back of the World Championship field last season, there were lots of really, really close fights. And for Patrick Hanko in particular, that podium he got overall at Imola behind the 2 race clutch drivers of, it was McGorgy and Dennehan at the time, of course, was very, very impressive. And he even took pole and was in contention to win that particular. In fact, he didn't win any of the pro races last season, did Patrick? It was purely his consistency that put him right in where he needed to be, where he just got loads and loads of second places. And considering it was different people winning every other round, that was what he needed to do. So, yeah, Saracino, of course, has put in a great showing so far, but the real test now will be whether he can hold on to that 4th place in these last few laps from his teammate Hanko and a charging Zooks. Could Patrick Hanko maybe do Go Team a bit of a favour here and hold up Zooks to protect Saracino's 4th position?
Now let's see here. It's going to get pretty tight. 2 laps to go at the line. And I've got to say, David, I'm slightly surprised and impressed that Zoltz has been able to keep those soft tyres underneath him quite so well in the latter portion of this race. Admittedly, he's about to get to the end of lap 10 where things could get a little bit more sticky for him, but so far those softs have been pretty good and they're catching these 2 medium runners.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was looking at his lap times and he's still in the mid to high 129s, so he's really been extracting good consistent performance out of the softs, and I guess he knew when to put them on. He knew that he only wanted 10 laps out of them and then he could hammer them hard, and he certainly used them well. And it's funny what Edward was saying before. I'm sure Sander Callis, because Sander Callis and Zoltan Sulks were kind of joined at the hip for the first stint, really all the way through into pit lane, and I really think Callis probably saw Sulks arrive and go, oh my God, I thought I'd gotten rid of you, because they'd had such a fight for so long. It must have been a bit heartbreaking to see him catch him and pass him.
This might just run out of laps here, Zooks, and maybe out of tyre life as well. Depends what the teammates do a little bit here, Ed, as you were sort of referencing earlier on. Saracino and Hanko cannot afford to fight amongst themselves. They are teammates, first of all, so they're unlikely to, but if they do, then Zooks is going to possibly take both of them.
Yeah, they need this P4 from a team's championship point of view. They cannot afford to let Optiminal get the jump on them here. Zooks, his charge is halted. He's out of the 29s and into the 1 minute 30s, but he's in low 1 minute 30 territory, whereas Hanko and Saracino in the 30.7s and 30.6s respectively. So just one more lap to go, and Mark Schluter is looking to take a very, very dominant victory, 9 seconds ahead of Geoffrey Fournier, and this could be a milestone moment for the German, who he's won in other categories but not in FSR, so this could be a big boost to his confidence come the rest of the season.
Silks has just had a big off on the entrance to the back straight. I'm not sure of the corner number, might be 13 or 14.
Move going on. Hanko versus Saracino.
Hanko's going to go through here pretty easily. That's exactly the exchange we were talking about there. You've got to do it just easily, quickly, and without any delay here. Otherwise, Zooks is going to get both. He might still get one of them. It looks like Giuseppe Saracino is going to be the one in trouble. He's going to use a lot of push to pass, though. He's going to just about stay in front. Is he in towards turn 4? The big tight line. Oh, it's close. In towards turn 4, and Zooks on a very tight line there with not much space. Just about gets alongside Saracino, but can't get through. He just misses his apex there at turn 6 as well here. Oh, has he now just lost the time here, Ed, that could prevent him from getting that top 5?
Yeah, Zooks driving like a desperate man, very crazily trying to get through on the inside at turn 4 there with a late dive, considering how far ahead Saracino was, and the rears are gone, and I think that chance at 5th position is also gone from Zooks. So in the end, Go Team Saracino made the right team play to let his teammate through, but it's Schluter that's going to win.
Mark Schluter out of the final corner to win the Bahrain Grand Prix. He takes his first ever Formula SimRacing World Championship race victory, and he does it in style at the circuit that bid him hard 2 years ago. At this very round of the championship, he wins this time around ahead of the, it has to be said, much more experienced in this championship, Geoffrey Fournier and Tom Oldermenger, with a great podium in the first race of the 2025 campaign for Vega Valley eSports. What a drive from Oldermenger. Does Saracino hold on from Zooks? The answer is yes. Sander Callis actually cut up quite nicely at the end there as well. He will finish in 7th place before the gaps get a little bit larger further down. But what a way, Ed, to just extinguish the ghost of 2 years ago for Mark Schluter. He takes his first ever World Championship race victory.
Yep, and he's certainly come in for a little bit of criticism in other categories, I think it's fair to say, so this should hopefully be a very, very good tonic for that, and to silence the critics that he certainly had over the past couple of months, as we see Michael Leroux in his first appearance crossing the line in P9, and Zalagianis taking his first top 10 in the World Championship, so great results for those two. But yeah, Schluter, of course, will take the headlines, and along with it, the plaudits. I think all of our top 3, it's the first time on the podium for all of our top 3, apart from Geoffrey Fournier, of course, who's gotten a 3rd place before, but still a best ever finish for the Frenchman. And look at them going side by side there. I think they clearly enjoyed that race, and understandably so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of best ever finishes in the World Championship here this evening, but most importantly, a first time race winner. And it's Mark Schluter who has dominated the second part of that race. He had to battle pretty hard earlier on, and everyone was going to wonder what would have happened if Reuven Machete had stayed in the race. Well, we'll have to find out next time out when hopefully he does reappear and challenge the Malaysian Grand Prix in 3 weeks' time when we're next back on the air. But what a great result and indeed drive from Mark Suter from the CMT Go Team Racing squad, who now pull into the pit lane and celebrate his victory. Let's have a look at the race results at the end of 57 laps. It's Mark Suter who wins ahead of Jeffrey Fournier, the only one on the podium to have been there before. Tom Oldemanga joins them on the bottom step. Patrick Hanco and Giuseppe Saracino ensure it's 3 Go Team Racing drivers in the top 5, with Zoltzuks in 6th. Sander Callas may be disappointed with 7th place. He's the first of 2 ground effects in the top 10, in between Pascal and Michael Leroux in 8th and 9th. Sargianis rounds out the top 10. And then just outside of it, it's Mirko Mancini who finishes in the 11th position. Cam Roger just in behind him, fell away a little bit from that battle for 11th in the latter portion of that hard tyre stint. Jesse Lahtinen makes his debut, finishing 13th, ahead of his teammate Lucas Viscott, and between them was Peter Knapp, the reigning Academy champion. Down at the back end of the field, Reuven Machete, who had PC trouble early on in that race. Final thoughts from you, David. Initial reaction to that opening race of the season. Dominance from Mark Suter. I've got to say that the performance I'm most impressed with, probably Tom Oldemanga, who manages to get that first podium in his World Championship career there in 3rd position. What a great drive from him, and a great way to start the season here at the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah, 100%. There are a lot of fantastic stories there. I think, as you headlined it, very consistent and very impressive drive by Mark Schluter. Really solid performance from Jeffrey Fournier and Tom Oldemanga. Congratulations to him for a podium in the FSR World Championship. But all the way back down the grid, so many amazing battles and stories, battles on track, strategic battles, tyre choices. So it kept us entertained, and I hope it kept the viewers entertained. But fantastic race.
We have got a few drivers. Oh, sorry. You've caught and done. Exactly what I was going to say about the interviews.
You're right to say, because it's entirely possible I would have missed it, but I'm concentrating this time. And indeed, yes. Tom Oldemanga is going to join us. Oh, I don't have the power to drag people about, so you have to do
luckily
that.
I do, as I'm the president.
Yeah, that's good news. Welcome in, Tom. Congratulations on a podium finish. How was that race for you? I've got to say, I, with respect, I didn't have you in my top 3 to get on the podium here today, but you've managed to get up there and finish on the bottom step of the podium. How are you feeling at the end of that race?
Sweaty. Sweaty and tired and content at the moment, but it still has to sink in, I guess. I didn't write myself down for a podium either. I knew my race pace was okay, but I had to do it in qualifying, and then my first quali attempt was good, and then I messed up all the others, so I thought it was over. And then especially in the second stint, I messed up the rear tires, so I didn't have the pace I wanted. But then Sux was on a creative strategy, and then I guess the mediums, they were good at the end. So overtook Callas for the podium, which is nice. After last year without a podium, the entire year, to start off with one is pretty nice, especially in WC.
Exactly, yeah. What does this give you for the rest of the season, though? We've still got 9 rounds to go here, and you're showing yourself to be right up there with the others. How much confidence does this give you going forward?
Yeah, a decent amount of confidence. I sustained a concussion last year, and honestly, I'm still recovering. But these past few weeks preparing for the season, I've noticed that I'm able to learn again and grow, understand the car better. So there's definitely growth to be done, to especially understand the tires a bit more. But also, Bahrain is not really my track. So this is, I think, across all the classes, my best ever result at Bahrain, and it's there's other tracks where I'm better at, so it does give me a decent amount of confidence, but I don't want to jinx it either, so I don't know if I just did.
I think that's our job, Tom. Wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
That is true. Congratulations, Tom, on 3rd place here tonight at Bahrain, and looking forward to seeing what you can do on a circuit that maybe is a bit more to your liking. Thanks for chatting to us at the end.
Yeah, hope to speak to you a lot more often. See you guys.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks very much. Tom Oldermenger, third place here tonight at Bahrain. Just while we've been chatting to Tom, Mark Schluter has also popped himself in the waiting room, and hopefully we can bring him in a second here as well. Our race winner here from the Bahrain Grand Prix. Welcome in, Mark. Congratulations on race victory in the first round of the FSR World Championship campaign for 2025. How are you feeling at the end of the race?
Pretty good, pretty good. We knew we were fast, but didn't expect to win the first race. But yeah, optimism gave us everyone off for their money. Just a shame that Reuven had that internet issue. Otherwise, I think it would have been closer than it was in the end.
Absolutely. What do you think this season is going to be like in terms of battling for race wins? Do you think you're going to be up there again, fighting for maybe even a championship in 2025?
Well, we'll have to see. I'll take every race from zero, pretty much, and just try to do my best there.
Congratulations, Mark, on race victory here at Bahrain tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Yeah, thank you
very much. That is Mark Schluter has taken the race victory here at Bahrain tonight in the opening round of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 2025. Final thoughts from the both of you, starting with you, Ed. The first round of the season, great to be up and running in 2025, and I think the first race delivered a very interesting and exciting race indeed.
I'm kind of personally in disbelief that my presidency has started out with it not being a complete train wreck and disaster, that we've got 2 races and 2 broadcasts to run successfully, but also we've seen great racing, a very close finish between a Cancellian single in Pro, and then of course a brilliant headline performance from Mark Schluter, Jeffrey Fournier and Tom Oldermenger as well. And it's good to see Tom, who I did all the inside FSR videos with in the last couple of years, finally get that World Championship podium. Him and Mark a bit speechless, so the interviews were fairly short, which I guess is sort of a blessing in terms of ending early. But yeah, a long season to go. Big news as well in terms of the community vote race. I'm going to put that open immediately after this. The 3 options are Melbourne, Montreal, and Jeddah Corniche in Saudi Arabia, of course. So 3 street circuits for round 3. We're going to give everyone plenty of time to vote on that, and I'm sure that's going to set things up very, very nicely for the next 3 races then. But if they're anything like what we've seen today, we should be in for a very, very close, very, very exciting season. And finally from me, big thanks to all of our partners at Grid Finder, and also David and his SimRacing grid company as well, which it was great to get the ad in for as well before World Championship started. We're seeing a replay of one of the MV Conquest cars spinning. That's a bit unfortunate for them. I would hope that would have got out of the broadcast, but nonetheless, it's in there at the end.
There we go. And final thoughts from you, David. A fantastic way to start the season here at Bahrain. Thoroughly enjoyed that, actually.
Yeah, indeed. I think we've learned that we've got a very good race car. We've got some interesting tyre offsets, and we've got a very talented grid with some great drivers. So we can look forward to a very high level championship, and I hope the drivers enjoy it, and I hope the viewers come along for the ride.
Absolutely. Make sure you join us again in 3 weeks' time for the Malaysian Grand Prix, round 2 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 2025. And as Ed says, make sure you go and vote in the community vote race, because 4 weeks later we'll be at a street circuit. Don't know which one just yet, and you can very much be a part of deciding which one. As I say, big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in. I've been Ewan alongside Ed Hunter and David O'Reilly. Big thanks to everyone behind the scenes as well, including Peter Schooneman